Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to discuss governance and the major challenges that prevent it from working effectively along with their solutions. Every system in this world promises results, but very few deliver them fully. According to physics, no machine is 100% efficient. No matter how advanced it is, some efforts are wasted during input and output, which limit the machine's ability to give 100%. When friction rises, the results will gradually be affected. Now think about governance. A state may invest resources, policies, and effort, but still fail to achieve desired outcomes. Why? Because just like machines, governance also suffers from friction. And this friction has two major forms: corruption and inefficiency. Now, what is governance? Governance refers to the manner or process of governing a state or organization. It is not just about making decisions, it is about how effectively those decisions produce results. However, the gap between effort means input and outcome means output exists due to certain obstacles. These obstacles, this friction, limit governance from achieving its full potential. Now, just like friction reduces a machine's efficiency, governance is weakened by corruption and inefficiency. The greater this friction, the weaker the results. So the key question becomes, why does this friction exist? Let's begin with corruption, the first major form of friction that weakens governance and distorts outcomes. Corruption is not one-dimensional, it exists in two major forms: need-based corruption and greed-based corruption. Need-based corruption occurs when individuals engage in wrongdoing due to basic survival needs. For example, a low-paid government employee taking a bribe to support their family. The deviant theory in sociology explains why people deviate from rules. It suggests that social pressures and structural issues push individuals toward corruption. Closely linked is the strain theory, which states when legitimate means are unavailable, people turn to illegitimate ones. The biggest source of this strain is poverty. As it is often said, poverty is the mother of many crimes. Now, the role of power is very important. Will Durant says that power is given to certain individuals to control the behavior of people in order to maintain social order. It is because if people are given absolute freedom, they will start doing wrong things. The higher the power will be, the greater the control will be. For example, people obey a police officer more than a security guard because police has the power to fine or arrest them. Thus, the power was given to maintain social order. It is a responsibility, as it is said, with great power comes great responsibility. But here comes the paradox. According to Lord Acton, power tends to corrupt and absolute power corrupts absolutely. People were given power to run the state efficiently and maintain order, but they started corruption. With increasing power, corruption is also increased. So the very tool meant to maintain order becomes a source of corruption. Even if driven by need, corruption cannot be justified. The real solution is to reduce societal strain, especially poverty, to minimize this form of corruption. Unlike need-based corruption, greed-based corruption is driven not by survival but by desire for more. For instance, wealth accumulation or power expansion. Humans love freedom. Sigmund, a psychologist, gave a theory of psychoanalysis which has different components. One component is the structure of mind. Brain is a physical part, while mind is a software that is invisible. He explains human behavior through three components of the mind: id, the superego, and ego. Id represents instinctive, pleasure seeking behavior common to humans and animals. It demands immediate satisfaction and complete freedom. For instance, if both humans and animals are hungry, they eat food and get pleasure. If they are sleepy, they sleep and get pleasure. Now it says that I want freedom to do whatever way I want. Animals even eat their own species when they are hungry to get pleasure. It is animal behavior. The superego, on the other hand, represents moral and ideal behavior, guiding individuals to act according to ethics, religion, and societal values. For instance, Islam says that die hungry but don't eat haram. This is ideal behavior. Then finally, ego acts as a mediator, balancing the desires of the id and the restrictions of the superego based on real life situations. For instance, id urges to eat something, even haram, due to hunger, but superego denies. However, ego convinced superego to eat haram or bad things because no other option is available in particular at that time and a person can die. So, when the id dominates, it leads to excessive desires and greed. This aligns with the idea that humans are never satisfied with wealth. Sociology presents control theory to control this greed of human beings, which include freedom, so that good social order could be maintained. For this purpose, societies create institutions like National Accountability Bureau (NAB), Federal Investigation Agency (FIA), and other anti-corruption agencies. However, when these institutions are politically influenced, they lose effectiveness. For instance, during 1970s, Zulfikar Ali Bhutto introduced the Common Training Program to democratize the bureaucracy in Pakistan and reduce the influence of civil service elites. There were more political appointments. This was done to make bureaucracy accountable to elected officials. However, this undermined the neutrality of bureaucracy. Now, the head of NAB is appointed by the ruling party in Pakistan. The party favors persons who turn a blind eye on their corruption. Similarly, when other political party comes to power, it favors its favorite and thus the vicious cycle continues. There is no one to control the greed of politicians in Pakistan. So, will they control their greed themselves? No. Instead, the greed will increase. When cases are filed against them during their opposition's rule, they use political rhetoric to remain the pious among public. Corruption thrives in countries where accountability institutions are weak or dependent, while it declines in countries where institutions are independent and impartial. Now, let's move to inefficiency, the second form of friction, where systems fail not due to dishonesty but due to inability. Governance operates through three institutions: executive, which implements policies; legislature, which makes laws; judiciary, which interprets laws. Usually, the governance is carried out by the executive branch, while the political oversight is done by the legislative and judiciary branches. Now, people who run these three branches go through three phases: selection, training, and on job. The basic theory of human resource says that talent is seen and judged while recruiting. The selection process is the first step, therefore, it should be good. Then, if the training is not good, the selected candidate for the job will not be able to perform better. Therefore, training should be effective. And finally, the performance on job depends on good selection and training. If selection and training are not good, the desired outcomes on job will not be achieved. The legislative branch suffers from flawed electoral selection and poor training, resulting in weak performance. Only a small number of members actively participate in lawmaking, while the majority remain inactive, leaving many public issues unaddressed. This reflects ineffective selection and training systems. Additionally, governance is overly focused on the economy, leading to flawed policies such as excessive payments to IPPs while neglecting critical areas like healthcare and women's rights. This leads to poor legislation on key issues like healthcare and social welfare. The judiciary operates at two levels, district or provincial, and higher, but both face serious issues. While lower judiciary judges are selected through competitive exams, their performance is weakened by ineffective training. In contrast, higher judiciary appointments lack a clear merit based system, relying on seniority, case history, and sometimes political connections without ensuring relevant expertise. For instance, a judge with corporate law experience handling criminal cases, just like a heart specialist treating bone fractures. There is also no formal training for higher judges, and even lawyers are directly appointed as Supreme Court judges sometimes. There is nepotism or political connections in selection process. The selection process is further compromised by a judicial commission dominated by the same judges, creating a cycle of weak appointments despite the presence of some competent individuals whose voices are often overlooked. Together, all of this contribute to poor decision making. Selection of higher executives through CSS and PMS exams is flawed due to a lack of standardization, inconsistent marking, and issues like the quota system, making results unreliable. Even after selection, ineffective training fails to improve candidates' skills or personality, further weakening their performance. As a result, many officers struggle to deliver desired outcomes in their roles. After identifying the problems, let's now focus on solutions, how governance can be reformed to reduce both corruption and inefficiency. First, we have the Singapore model. In Singapore, Lee Kuan transformed a poor, corruption ridden society by targeting two core issues, corruption and inefficiency. He increased civil servants' salaries to reduce corruption and attract top talent, and ensured high quality training by sending candidates to leading institutions like Harvard University. Strict performance criteria were applied during training, and only competent candidates were retained. Once in service, promotions were based purely on performance rather than seniority, while consistently underperforming officials were removed. Only the best survive and rise. This created a system of accountability and healthy competition, ultimately leading to highly efficient governance and turning Singapore into one of the world's most successful states. Another model for efficient governance is the Malaya model. It divides governance into four types: corrupt and inefficient, non corrupt but inefficient, corrupt yet efficient, and non corrupt and efficient. But here is the surprising reality: many states actually function under the category of corrupt but efficient. Because even if corruption exists, the system still delivers results. But when inefficiency enters the system, everything collapses. No decisions, no delivery, no progress. That's why inefficiency is often more dangerous than corruption. It silently destroys governance from within. And this raises an important question: should inefficiency also be treated as a crime? Because once efficiency is enforced, corruption automatically starts shrinking. To conclude, governance is not just about power, it is about responsibility. A state fails not because it lacks resources, but because it fails to manage them effectively. If corruption is the disease, then inefficiency is the silent killer. And unless both are addressed together, no system, no matter how strong, can ever reach its full potential.